Hello and welcome back. The premise at FM23 Roleplay is we take a 15-year-old American kid, we give him a 200 potential rating, we follow him throughout his career. We're not going to coach any club, we're not going to interfere by using the in-game editor. This kid is now 16 years old and he plays for St. Louis City in Major League Soccer. We are to tell the story of his life and we are going to use a football manager in order to drive the narrative. We are now, as you can see, in June 2023. And as I mentioned last time, Henry Martin, that's our guy. He missed his older sister Maggie's graduation from high school. It's one of the many conflicts that professional football players face in balancing their family obligations with their professional duties. But he had a game the next day, and his playing obligations had to take place. And furthermore, it's an 8-hour drive between Shreveport, Louisiana, which is his hometown, and St. Louis. However, there is a 1-month gap between July 19th and August 25th. It's the mid-season MLS break, and Henry has 2 goals during this gap: to see his family and catch up with his older sister before he heads off to Duke, and to get a Florida vacation in with his host family in St. Louis, the Winds. Now, if he can swing it, he might take a stab at getting his driver's license. And after that, however, once we get to August, he isn't going to have any free time until the end of the season. And there are still 14 games left to play. And St. Louis is quite clearly in the hunt here. They are third in Major League Soccer's Western Conference. As I promised, we're also going to be highlighting some of Henry's teammates along the way. And this episode's highlighted player is Joachim Nilsson. Now, Nilsson is a 29-year-old Swedish anchor defender who joined the club in July of 2022, 9 months before St. Louis City would play its first professional MLS game. He's making $1.1 million a year. He is the 4th highest player on the team in terms of salary. See, right there he is. Now, when he was with Arminia Bielefeld in Germany, he helped that second division club earn a promotion to the Bundesliga. He happens to be a fluent English speaker. He happens to be the youngest child in a family of 5 people. And one of his brothers, Per Nilsson, was also a pro football player for 18 years. He has a wife. He has 2 young children. Here is a picture of the family here. And right now, this is where we're at in the game. Now, regarding the debt relief, Henry did give his parents $10,000 to handle debt expenses. And his parents haven't reached out for anything else, really since then. He's not offered anything else since then. So let's go ahead and try to move him forward in the game, at least until his mid-season break. And we are back to July 23rd, 2023. DC United has played 6 games with Henry, and the record over those 6 games is 3 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. And we're going to take a look at those games right now, and we'll discuss them briefly as well as some other things that are going on here. We'll start with the game against LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy was the number 3 team in the West Conference when this game was played, and it ended up as an 0-2 loss. Henry did not have a great game in this game. He was a 6.2 rating, as you can see here. And if, we can't bring it up now because time has passed, but the game summary said that he had a glaring error. This was a glaring error in the 63rd minute that allowed Ricky Puig to score the second goal of the Galaxy's 2-0 victory. Of course, as Henry would tell it, he just wasn't passing with any intention. He wasn't communicating well, and Rui just simply stepped in, got the possession, and after that, it was it was a goal for the Galaxy, and he had no one to blame but himself for that. Uh, Henry would later say that coming in to practice the next day was one of the toughest things he ever did. He just wanted to shrink and hide under a table somewhere because he knew he had really screwed up very badly. Um, the next game, he'd have a chance to make it up, though. This was Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake at the time, like I've said before, there's a lot of parity right now in MLS. And Real Salt Lake was at the time, they were the number one team in the Western Conference. And this was a 2-0 win. It was actually, and we'll look at it, St. Louis City's first win since May 31st, almost a whole month. Henry had a great 7-1 game in that one. Did pick up a yellow card, however, in this one. Joao Klaus, he had 2 goals. It was, and after this, they went on a little run here. Next game was against DC United. DC United, as a away game, got a chance to go back to his own club, and Henry was fired up for this game. He really wanted to put DC United the torch. He had a fairly good game. He had a 6-9 in that one, 1-0 victory for the visiting club team. Incidentally, while he was in Washington, he got a chance. The Hannons, his previous host family, attended this game. He was very glad to see them. He didn't get a chance to exchange any real conversation with John Hartz, who was his former manager at DC United. Hartz is still there at DC United, but DC United, at the time this game was played on July 1st, they were in 14th place in the Eastern Conference. Those guys are going nowhere. On the 5th, that was a away game against Seattle. First, we have 4 away games, and DC, St. Louis, really, did pretty well. Seattle gets the 2-0 win here, but it's not a good game for Henry. It's 6.664. And Henry feels just tired. He's a 16-year-old kid. He's never played a full season of professional pro football. And it's just kind of starting to wear down on him. Seattle was number 2 in the West at the time, and it was another big game. He didn't step up, but the rest of the team did. 2-0 win for Seattle. It was funny, after this game, that's when the coach of the manager Bradley Carnell began mentioning, okay, guys, we got to get ready for the League's Cup at the end of July. And Henry goes, uh-oh, what in the hell is the League's Cup? The players had not talked about the League's Cup. He didn't know there was a League's Cup. He was inattentive about the League's Cup. He thought he would be going on vacation at the end of July, and now he found out that no, he was not going to be going on vacation. He was going to be playing football. Well, at least all of this gave a chance, for the host family, his host family, the wins, to cancel his plane ticket, cancel any reservations to Disney World, or trade winds, and it was really heartbreaking to him because he knew he was not going to wasn't going to get to go to Disney World, probably wasn't going to get a whole lot of chance of time to even see his family, to see Maggie before she went off to Duke. It was just very, very, very depressing to him. And next game on the 8th was against CF Montreal. CF Montreal, number 1 in the Eastern Conference. And he managed, however, he knew he was a player. He had to get it together. He got it together. A 7-1 game for him. Jimmy Madrana tied that game in the 79th minute here. But Marshall gets his 5th yellow card. I don't see it here. but he does get his fifth yellow card, and that forces him to be suspended for an entire game. Julian Carenza, uh, in training, he got a groin strain. He'll be out for a little while. This game on the 16th against Dallas, another 1-1 draw. Henry was not a part of this game. He was being suspended for that fifth yellow card that he got. And even though he didn't go to that game because it was a away game and they didn't want to transport him on their low budgets, they left him at home. Here is 23-year-old Jabulo Blom. He had a great game. He had a 7-7. He had 7-7 game. Had a goal. He played Henry's position. Played it better than Henry did. And Blom is from South Africa, by the way, just like his manager is, Bradley Carnell. So Henry has a little bit of angst after this game. The only other news in the league, really, Andy Williams. He is now out at Vancouver. Daniel Pereira on the senior squad. Let's pull him up here. He has rejected. They had already negotiated a new contract for him for $102,000, and he is rejecting a renegotiation of that contract up to 25. Nils Fruling, midfielder / striker, he was out 4 weeks with a thigh strain. And remember, I mentioned those 2 goals by Joao Klaus. Well, they renegotiated Klaus's contract to a staggering $3.765 million per year. Staggering for an MLS team, a small budget team like St. Louis. He is now 24.6% of this team's total payroll. Man, it was 30.7 when they signed this contract. So they've got a lot of faith in this guy. I don't know, paying that much for you better hope that he's just absolutely brilliant for the rest of the year. He's 26 years old. He will be on this contract for the next 4 years, if you can believe it or not. So here we are. We are now at the League Cup. So you may ask yourself, if you're not familiar with MLS, what the hell is the League Cup? Well, the League Cup is kind of mutated, but basically what they've done is they've taken now this year, 2023, all of the MLS teams, and they've also added the Liga Mexico teams to that, and they're fighting over this. It could be a month-long tournament. Depends on how well you do. Right now, St. Louis is down here in Group 14. Their group is the LA Galaxy, which will be tough to beat. And also Pumas, which is currently 7th in the Liga MX. So we're going to see what happens here. I'm going to stop here, but I do want to tell you one little story, however, before I go. He had talked, when I say he, Henry, had spoken to his, basically his friend Jonathan Wynn. Jonathan Wynn is the son of Robert and Victoria Wynn. It's the foster family that Henry plays with. And, Jonathan and Henry have been pretty close friends. Jonathan's probably his closest friend in St. Louis. And let's take a look at how well Jonathan is doing. I have Jonathan is shortlisted because I like to keep Henry's friends close by. There's Jonathan Wynn. He's playing for St. Louis City Academy here. You look at his line down here, he's had 13 appearances, but all of them have been pretty much, off the bench. His rating is a pedestrian 6.6, 17 years old. And Henry and Jonathan were talking, and Jonathan said, look, I've had a lot of knee pain in my left knee. He admitted that to Henry. He felt safe enough to admit it. I have a lot of knee pain right now, but I don't want to tell anybody about it. Because if I do, then they're not going to let me play. And I want to. I hate being on the bench. He hates it. Jonathan hates being a reserve, hates watching everybody play. But even then, at least he's playing. At least he's played 13 times this season. And he just doesn't want to lose that. And he had asked Henry, he said, look, I don't know what kind of influence you have. Is it possible that, I don't know, some cortisone shot perhaps? Something that would kind of, ease this pain off? And Henry asked him, well, how bad is the pain? And Jonathan said, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it's about a 4. And Henry was surprised that, wow, it's a 4? You're playing with this kind of pain? But Henry also knew that he'd seen a lot of his fellow teammates kind of grunt and groan a lot. He suspected that they were in pain too. And Henry's sort of learning this ethos about that you have to play while you're in pain. Because any day in football can be your last day. So Jonathan talked to the staff member here, not the staff member at St. Louis Academy, excuse me. Let's get away from Wynn. And he talked to this man, Brian Goody Goodstein. Now, Brian had worked with DC United, and Henry knew Brian Goodstein, because he was actually the head physio over at DC United while Henry was still playing there. And when Henry happened to come to St. Louis, coincidentally, there was no connection between these events. Goody Goodstein left DC United and came over to St. Louis City. So the two knew each other. And Henry asked in a kind of a roundabout way, I have a friend, 17 years old, has knee pain, plays football. Would a cortisone shot be something that could help that guy? And Goodstein said, well, is it a member of this team? Are you talking about one of your teammates? He said, no, I'm not. This guy is not on the St. Louis squad. And he said, 16 years old, you really should only be giving cortisone shots, one a few times a year. Goody was a little bit sus about this request that Henry was making. And he just backed off and said, no, if your friend should see a doctor, before we even try getting, a cortisone shot, particularly fooling around with the knee. So Henry had to go back on that request empty-handed. So he feels a little bit bad about that now. He's not going to go on vacation with Jonathan. Can't help Jonathan with his knee, and Jonathan saying my knee's a 4 in pain on a scale of 1 to 10. Can't get back home. Has to play this Leagues Cup, whatever that is, and who knows how long that might be. All of his plans kind of thrown into a cocked hat. So we're going to stop here, and we're going to go on at least past the Leagues Cup and see where we get from there. And we are back. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with Henry and how far did St. Louis get in the Leagues Cup? Well, as it turns out, not very far. In their opening group, they started out with a 1-0 win against the LA Galaxy. And sort of an even match. Marshall had a 6-7 in that game. Then, 4 days later, on the 28th, both these games were played in St. Louis, by the way. Then they took on Pumas. Now, that was an interesting game. It was a 1-1 draw. Marshall had a decent 6-8 in that one. And it went into extra time and then into penalty shooting. And Nobody was going to be missing a penalty shot. And Henry's sitting there waiting. When am I going to take my penalty shot? And Pumas made 8 straight on St. Louis City's 8th. Jake Nowitzki, he just couldn't get it past Pumas goalkeeper Carlos Galindo. Galindo blocked it. That was it. And so that was the penalty loss. But it was good enough to get out of Group 14 and into the quarterfinal, where they had to go on the road to Mexico to play Atletico St. Louis. And they got crushed in front of the Mexican crowd. 0-3. Henry managed to quit himself, had a 6-8 game, but Berkey just had an awful 5-9 game. That was it. So at least Henry might get some time off. Just another thing here, some injury worries for Lou, and he pulled a back muscle. He'll be out a couple of weeks, but that's going to be time off him. Jaap Stam was fired by Philadelphia. Here today, gone today. Last year, end of 22, Philadelphia won the MLS Cup. This year, they're in 12th place, and Stam is shown the door. So, rather ungrateful here. Let's take a look at Henry here one last time. And let's see. I don't think he's not going to get any vacation. He's just going to have to work at the club. A lot of people denying these Philadelphia ties, as usual. And go to Tuesday just to make sure if he's. Now, we'll just assume that Henry is remaining at the club. I go through a lot of stuff here. I don't know, the LA Galaxy job is suddenly insecure and out, but the LA Galaxy have been doing so well all year. Well, it's just this problem with parity that we have here. All the teams are so bunched up together that everybody thinks that they can win the league, and they're just more and more demanding now. Let's take a look at the final standings before we head on out the door. Orlando City is now the top team in the East. Columbus still has 25 points down here. Look at the difference between 1 and 6. Just 2 points. Look at the difference between 1 and 5 here. Just 3 points. St. Louis City still in 3rd place. Only 3 points away from Seattle leading the Western Conference. Say St. Louis City could take it at the beginning of the year. When I didn't show you this, they had the MLS preview. The odds against St. Louis City winning the whole thing were set at 4,000 to 1. 4,000 to 1. And with one good rule of luck, who knows? Who knows where St. Louis City is going to be? Well, I think we've run out of time. Don't want to keep you here. I just want to thank y'all for your support. I want to thank you. Thank you for listening. If you're listening, and if you like what you see, you just hit like and hit subscribe. And hey, guys, I'll see you later. Bye bye.